Allegedly caught red-handed, Charles Lieber is the former chair of Harvard's Chemistry and Chemical Biology Department. He was indicted on charges of making false statements to federal authorities regarding his participation in China's Thousand Talents program. Here now is Bill Gavin, a former FBI assistant director. Bill, thank you so much for joining us. So I'm trying to read through all these details and understand more of what happened here. I know some of the details, caught our attention here on this show. We first reported it. It was right when the virus was being associated with the lab, way back in, I believe it was March, the FBI originally made this arrest. And it was quite a coincidence that he was being hired by Wuhan Tech University, I believe it is. He's supposed to be working there 9 or 10 months out of the year, yet he's the chair of the Harvard Chemistry Department, so I don't know how that's possible. And he claims that he had no idea, sort of what they wanted other than his expertise. What do you think was happening?
Well, there is no doubt the aggressive nature of the Chinese government right now, and it has been for a number of years, to reach out into the academic culture of the United States and the corporate culture of the United States to take whatever they can get and get away with. How do they do this? Listen, there are 1.4 billion people. They have tons of students that they send into the United States and other universities all over the world. But they have tons of students that they send here, targeting them to major in certain disciplines. Also, take, for instance, just this one individual, Dr. Lieber. They gave him allegedly gave him $50,000 a month for a salary, gave him $185,000 a year for sustenance, $1.3 million as a bonus, and this is just one individual. Think of all the individuals that are targeted. The Bureau has cases, and almost all their 50 field officers, against this kind of activity by the Chinese government. But they're voracious. They won't stop. They're going to get whatever they can from the academic world and from the corporate world as well.
So he's 61 years old, I believe. He had been at Harvard University and the chair of the department for a while. He had received $15 million in research grants from, I want to make sure I get this right, from NIH and also from the Department of Defense. And among other things, when you get those grants, you're required to disclose all sources of research support, really for this reason, because they want to make sure that the Department of Defense isn't locked in with somebody who is also working with the Chinese government. He did not reveal that he had this relationship with China, and that's what they're focused on. But that doesn't mean he's a spy. It looks like the charges are basically, you lied. Harvard said, they didn't have, they were forced to, or, they didn't know what was going on as well. What does that really tell you? What do you think is the real underlying crime here? Or is it just that, not disclosing it?
Well, I think, Melissa, the lack of candor is the tip of the iceberg, and that's the way you open the door to get into what was actually happening. When he lacks that candor, he lies during the course of the investigation, then they can wrap him up for that. But they're absolutely looking into what kind of, he was into nanotechnology, a science now that is a dire need for nanoscientists throughout the world based on the cultures that we have. What did he do? What did he give them? How much information, because he was receiving money from DOD and NIH, what part of that information that he developed while he was at while he was working with DOD, and I imagine continuously working for DOD, did he kind of pass on to the Chinese? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But all of that has to unfold. These things are so complex, and the Chinese are so good at doing this. But we are getting better and better at detecting all of that.
Well, we follow the story again. These are all charges and allegations, but he has now been indicted by a federal grand jury. So that's why we're revisiting this story that we first brought to you a while back. Bill Gavin, thank you so much for this. Connell.